Hello viewers, you're watching Afghanistan Report and I'm your host Monisha Narang. The main stories are: top US general's aircraft damaged by rockets fired at Bagram Air Base. Afghan women striving to improve political status. And Afghan Muslims celebrate Eid al-Fitr. Bagram Air Base near Kabul, a center of operations for the NATO-led international force in Afghanistan, was targeted by insurgents recently who fired 2 rockets at it. We have a report.
Insurgents fired 2 rockets at the NATO airbase, damaging an aircraft used by US Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Martin Dempsey. The general was not on board at the time. Dempsey arrived in the country on August 20 in a C-17 transport aircraft which was parked at Bagram Air Base north of Kabul when 2 rockets landed near the apron, slightly wounding 2 ground staff.
Last night, 2 rounds hit Bagram airfields and actually they caused damage to an ISAF helicopter and the C-17 transport airplane of General Dempsey. He was already in his room by that time, so he was not affected at all.
Dempsey, who had been in the country for talks with NATO and Afghan commanders on a string of recent rogue shootings, was sleeping in his quarters when the round struck and left the country afterwards on another aircraft.
Some of the shrapnels of those rounds damaged actually also the C-17 of General Dempsey, so he took another C-17 in order to continue his trip then out of Afghanistan.
Bagram, which is home to around 30,000 military and civilian personnel, is occasionally targeted with rockets and mortar shells fired by insurgents from surrounding hills and fields. In 2007, the heavily guarded base was targeted during a visit by former US Vice President Dick Cheney.
Afghan President Hamid Karzai marked the 93rd anniversary of the country's independence in a ceremony in Kabul. We have a report.
Afghan President Hamid Karzai marked the country's 93rd Independence Day on August 18 by placing a wreath at the foot of the Monument of Freedom in the Defense Ministry compound. The low-key event was attended by numerous Afghan officials and the honor guard. On the streets of Kabul, the anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Rawalpindi in 1919, which gave Afghanistan complete independence from British rule, went unobserved. Though never part of the British Empire, Britain had controlled Afghan foreign policy since the Second Anglo-Afghan War of 1879.
روز افتخار است که همیشه در افغانستان تجلیل میشد. روز 28 اسد جشن آزادی است که تاریخ ساز است. و متاسفانه کال بیخی به باد فراموشی رفته و هیچ کس نمیفهمه که امروز اکثریت دست خاطر که شواهد است، ولی کس بفهمه که 28 اسد هم هست امروز یا نیست، کسی فراموش کرده.
این باید بسیار یک روز باشکوه بود، یک روز پر افتخار بود، و بسیار افتخار این باید تجلیل میشه، بسیار از این باید تجلیل به عمل می آمد. اما یک تجلیل نکردن نمیفهمیم ما چرا و علتش چی است. ما فکر نمی‌کنیم ما آزادی داریم یا نداریم.
In the past, celebrations were held in a sports stadium near the presidential palace in the presence of government officials, foreign military commanders and diplomats.
Women in Afghanistan have faced many restrictions from the Taliban and other fundamentalists. Today we focus on how they are striving to improve their political status. A report.
The Afghan women find hard to improve their political status due to the negative social environment. Fazia Kofi, the first female vice president of Afghanistan's National Assembly, has been threatened with death by the Taliban and rival candidates.
Sometimes when I meet people, like crowd of people, and I keep looking at all of them, and if I don't know any face, then by the time I finish, I'm like, he will explode now or in any moment.
The Taliban targets influential women in Afghanistan to prevent them from participating in social activities. Fazia Coffee and her 2 daughters have been attacked 3 times. However, Coffee is more concerned about Afghan women's political prospects than her security. The root cause for the low political status of Afghan women is that they are not allowed to be independent in the country.
امروز در هر پست سیاسی که زنها قرار دارن اینا افزار شدن و نوع زنها اینا حمایت شده توسط گروهی از مردا که نه تنها احزاب هیچ حزب زنها در افغانستان حمایت نمیکنه احزاب سیاسی ولی مشخصا گروهی از مردای حمایت میکنن که منافع سیاسی خود در رأی زنها میبینن.
Despite this, Fazia Coffee has said that she wants to run for the president in an effort to increase women's participation in social activities.
Dr. Klaus Lang of the Institute for Transnational Studies, Germany, who was in New Delhi for the promotion of his book on South Asia, hopes for permanent peace in Afghanistan. However, he says it will be a complicated task to bring stability to the country.
Following 9/11 attacks in the United States, America launched Operation Enduring Freedom in 2001 to capture Al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden. Though Laden was killed in neighboring Pakistan last year, the war against terror still continues in Afghanistan, with the Taliban entrenched in its southern stronghold in the country.
Originally, it was the aim to sort of push out Al-Qaeda from Afghanistan. That was the reason for this war. And the Taliban were not prepared to hand over bin Laden, for instance. And then it escalated, got out of hand in my view. I'm very much in favor to end this conflict as quickly as possible, although I'm fully aware how complicated this is. We went into Afghanistan like entering a car without brakes, and we just started it, and now we don't know how to stop it. Yeah.
Foreign troops are planning to withdraw by 2014. Dr. Lang believes that Afghan police will find it tough to handle the security situation.
I'm not terribly optimistic. Even though people are not talking a lot about, for instance, TAPI, the pipeline from Turkmenistan through Afghanistan, Pakistan to India, things like this, and they believe by doing this they can stabilize, among others, Afghanistan, but basic questions also in this context have, in my opinion, not yet been solved. Security in Afghanistan cannot be provided. I cannot see how this should work. Particularly not after 2014, an Afghan national army, the strength of which will be maybe between 200,000 and 300,000 troops, we don't know yet how much, is by far not enough to stabilize this country. Military experts in Europe have calculated that in order to really stabilize Afghanistan, you would need 700,000 to 800,000 troops.
Afghan government efforts at reconciliation with the Taliban have failed several times. Even the US is trying to hold talks with the guerrillas, but has failed to reach anywhere. Peace and normalcy in Afghanistan are critical for the stability and security of the South Asian region.
People in Afghanistan celebrated the festival of Eid al-Fitr amid rising violence in the country. Afghan President Hamid Karzai condemned the acts of violence during the holy month. A report.
Afghan President Hamid Karzai attended Eid al-Fitr prayers with other Afghan officials at the Presidential Palace Mosque on August 19. Following the prayers, he gave a speech condemning the acts of violence committed during the holy month of Ramadan, which has just ended.
د اسلام دشمنانو د مسلمانانو دشمنانو د اسلام په نامه د طالب په نامه د افغانستان پر ملت د روزي په میاشت کې ډیر ظلم وکړي.
He blamed the Taliban for rising violence in the country.
پس یک بار دیگر بر بزرگای طالبان و طالبها سلام میکنم که ظلمی که بر ملت افغانستان شد از نام شما شد. اگر شما هستین و این ظلم کردین پس هیچ گفته در این مورد ما نداریم. ملت افغانستان حساب میته روز.
In a park, children had their own Eid celebrations, playing games in new clothes.
زه خوشحاله یم چې دلته لوبې ته راغلی ډېر وریان هلته سره ناست دي ټول ته اختر مبارک وایم تاسو ته اختر مبارک وایم ډېر خوشحاله یم چې اختر ورځ ده نن
روز عید است که با مسلمان‌ها روز خوشی است. دولت ما را می‌خواهیم که در افغانستان صلح را به پیش ببرد.
Islam is the official state religion of Afghanistan. Approximately 85% of the population is Sunni, while the remainder are Shia.
And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode of Afghanistan Report. I'm Monisha Narang taking your leave. We will be back next week with more news and views from Afghanistan. Goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.